everyone, my name is Liveni. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe, like, and comment because that's always the right thing to do. Now today we are doing a book review. I read a book by Trevor and it's called Born a Crime. So I thought, why not do a review about it? So let's get into it. Before we get into what I think about the book, I just want to say that I started reading very religiously in the past 2 months, and every week I read a book, and I've been feeling so great about just starting a book and finishing a book. And I think I will probably be doing a lot more reviews in my channel. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'll probably be doing a lot more reviews in my channel, simply because I think I want to encourage everybody to start reading. So I read this book. It took me quite longer than I often read a book, because usually it takes me literally a week, 7 days. For this one, I think it was about roughly 9 days because I wasn't religious about reading it and I had such a busy schedule. But I definitely think you can do it at a much less time. You could probably do it even for 4 days. I don't know, depending on you know what kind of reader you are and what your schedule looks like. But otherwise, you can definitely get through it. Because the reason why, because it doesn't have complicated and complex style of writing. It's very simple, comprehensible, everyday, ordinary English pretty much, and it's very good for beginners. Even if it kind of has this thickness to it, you can actually just read it and understand it. And so don't be fearful, man. It's just the book. So if you don't know who Trevor is, he is a South African comedian. He currently does the Daily Show, and he's a global celebrity now. And he decided to write a book. What was really nice about this book was that it didn't have the texture of like a comedian. Like it didn't feel like a comedian was writing this book, which I quite enjoyed a lot, because if I want to listen to him make jokes, I'll watch his comedy. So felt like a real book. It felt like somebody who was trying to tell a real story, and for the most part of it, he was talking about his mother. And as you can see with the title of the book, Trevor Born a Crime, Stories from a South African Childhood. So it has a lot to do with his mom. And the Washington Post here at the end, they describe the book as an affecting memoir. Born a Crime is a love letter to his mom, and that's essentially how I feel about the book as an entirety. But let's get on to how I feel about his writing and some of my commentary. Firstly, as I mentioned, the writing is pretty simple. You can get through that. Don't even worry about it. He doesn't use complex English. I also liked how he managed to just write his chapters very smoothly and elegantly. I was engaged throughout, from the first page right through to the last page. I didn't, you know, I took each story as it was supposed to be, and I think I quite enjoyed the fact that they were quite short, and it's almost like I didn't forget, like, oh, what was this chapter about again? Because sometimes I feel that people make their chapters way too long, and then you just keep forgetting, like, what are we talking about again? So with him, it was very nice to know that he was just on it, okay? I don't know how this might be for people who aren't from South Africa, but it was just so nice he was talking about Johannesburg, he's talking about Soweto, he's talking about Alex, he's talking about Highlands North, he's talking about Maryvale, he's talking about places I know, I've walked, and I almost imagined myself in the time as Trevor Noah's pal, almost. And that was really nice. And even when he spoke about Alex and Soweto, and these are townships in South Africa, I know these townships, but he just drew a picture that I'd never necessarily thought of, but I believe, because that is the truth. And so it's made me a little, question a little bit of things, and so it was very informative in that sense. But I wonder if the readers who read us who aren't from South Africa and don't know what locations talking about, I wonder what they imagine these places as, like, you know. That's really interesting. And even for South Africans who don't know Johannesburg, because let's not assume that everybody knows Soweto and Alex and Johannesburg and all these kinds of places. But anyway, it was pretty nice. I also was very impressed by the fact that, like, this is a young guy who grew up in South Africa, has very ordinary experiences, and he seems like the guy who was in my class, like, as a kid. He seems like the guy I've been friends with at some point in my life. Very mischievous, very cute looking guy who doesn't realize that he's actually that cute. So he just seems like a guy I've known, and the fact that he was raised by a black, strong Xhosa woman, man, viva to him, and he's been able to make something of himself on a global scale is very commendable. So I definitely had to read this book, and I think for South Africans, I think it's a story for you. I think it's a story that we can all be encouraged and empowered by, because this really gets to show you that Trevor Noah was a guy before the Trevor Noah. He was just a normal boy growing up in South Africa with very ordinary life. Not ordinary, okay, not ordinary, but ordinary. Like, we all go through some kind of abuse. Not all, but most of us kind of go through some either domestic abuse challenges. We go through some kind of depression. We go through some kind of financial shocking situations. I mean, and just going to multiracial schools, having black friends, having white friends, you know. All of these things are things that somehow we've all interacted with in our spaces growing up in South Africa, even if it's not to the T. But I think it's a very relatable story that he's telling. To be honest, the book was great, yes, but I would have loved for him, I was always anticipating for him to talk about, okay, so this is how I got into comedy, you know, and he didn't really mention that. Like, he always kind of knew that he was a comedian kind of thing. He didn't really mention that he was into comedy as a kid, or that he was that funny and kind of thing. Like, I was kind of anticipating that, and then no, it did not happen. So, which makes me think that this guy, Trevor Noah, is gonna have another book, because he's got a lot more to tell us still. So, yeah, I can't wait for that one. If you guys want me to do a little bit more book reviews, let me know which books you want me to read, and then we can all talk about them. I think I'm really starting to like reading and talking about the books that I read. So this book is not going to change your life. It's not going to tell you how to live your life. If you're looking for that, this is not the book for you. It's just a book about a celebrity, pretty much. And him telling you about his life as a kid. Okay? There are some valuable lessons that you do learn, but for me, it definitely didn't, like, I wasn't like, my life has changed because of this book. No. Time to rate the book. Out of 10, I give this one a big 6, okay? It's not that great, it's not that bad, but I would still encourage you guys to go and read it. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Mwah.